In an emotional outburst, she confronted her brother, King Charles, accusing him of orchestrating the silence that had hurt the family. She demanded to know who was responsible for covering up the truth. In the midst of this emotional chaos, the palace staff watched in disbelief. It was no longer a matter of politics, it was deeply personal. For the first time, the monarchy was being questioned from within. Anne had taken a stand. She would no longer stand by in silence, not when it came to her nephew, not when it came to the truth. She quietly urged Catherine to speak, telling her, "Do what you must or they'll never let you say it at all." It was a subtle but decisive turning point. Catherine, already prepared to break her silence, now had the support she needed. She was ready to speak out, ready to reveal the truth that had been concealed for far too long. And so Catherine's handwritten letter, a deeply personal and raw testament to her struggles, was discovered. Hidden beneath layers of family photographs tucked away in a private drawer, the letter was never meant to be read by anyone but her husband, Prince William. The letter was not a call for help, it wasn't a desperate plea for assistance. It was a final, powerful act of defiance and truth. Catherine poured out her soul, revealing the agonizing toll that Prince Louis's condition had taken on her and her family. She spoke of the loneliness, the constant battles behind closed doors, and the heartbreaking realization that their world would never be the same. She spoke of the long nights spent by Louis's bedside, seeking second opinions, hiding the truth behind false pretenses. She recalled the painful moments when she was instructed to smile for the cameras while her son slowly faded from sight. The letter painted a picture of a mother's quiet heartbreak, but it also revealed a deep well of love and strength. She didn't blame William. She admired him for his unwavering support, for being the pillar of the family. But even William, despite his strength, had been worn down by the weight of the monarchy's demands. The most heartbreaking line, Catherine wrote, "He's fading away, they also want me to be happy." It was a brutal reflection of the impossible expectations placed on her. A mother was being asked to be happy while her child's future hung in the balance. William read the letter in isolation, sitting alone in Sandringham, a place that had once been a sanctuary for him as a child. He was motionless for hours, his face hollow, his eyes empty. When he finally emerged, there was no anger, no resistance. There was only understanding, an understanding that the palace had pushed them both too far. From that moment on, William ceased to oppose Catherine's decision to speak out. His resistance crumbled as the truth, laid bare in her letter, left him with no choice but to support her. He had seen the truth in her words and felt the depth of her pain. It was at this moment that the monarchy's carefully constructed image began to unravel. The royal family's tight control over their narrative had been shattered by a simple, heartfelt letter, and the world was about to know the truth. Then came the unlikeliest of actions. Prince Harry, long exiled from the royal fold and shrouded in scandal, picked up the phone and made a call that no one expected. It was a call that would change everything. "I understand what it's like to be kept in the dark," Harry said, offering Catherine a connection born from shared pain, not royal duty. In that moment, Harry was not the rebellious prince. He was a brother, a son, a man who had experienced the very silence Catherine now faced. The conversation between Harry and Catherine lasted 37 minutes, a conversation that would remain private, yet one that would have profound consequences. No aides, no recordings, just two voices, united in their pain and in their determination to break the silence. "You have to tell them," Harry urged, recognizing the weight of what Catherine was about to do. He understood that the truth could no longer be contained. As Catherine hung up the phone, she felt a shift within her. The pressure to remain silent, to protect the royal family's image, was immense, but now she had the courage to speak. She was no longer alone. However, the aftermath of that call did not sit well with Meghan, who was already at odds with the royal family. Sources close to the couple reported a heated argument between Harry and Meghan, as Meghan reminded him of their reasons for leaving the royal fold. For Harry, the call was not about reconciliation. It was about breaking a cycle, about ending the silence that had trapped them all. And in the story of Prince Louis, he saw echoes of his own struggles, of the silence that had nearly destroyed him. Catherine, too, recognized the truth in Harry's words. His call had been the push she needed, the final prod that urged her to take action. Without it, she might have retreated back into the shadows, once again silenced by the palace. In the hours that followed, a monumental decision was made. King Charles, aware of the growing unrest within the palace, prepared to make a drastic move. He sought to prevent Catherine's statement from being made public. The order came in the dead of night, an encrypted directive that sent shockwaves through the royal administration. The goal was clear: to stop Catherine, to silence her before she could speak her truth. But William, now fully aligned with Catherine, refused to support his father's decision. He had already seen the truth in Catherine's letter, and he knew that it was time for the monarchy to face the reality it had tried so hard to suppress. The palace was in turmoil. Senior aides suggested that King Charles step forward and make a public statement, but he hesitated. His authority had already been challenged, and he was reluctant to face the growing rebellion within his own family. Meanwhile, Catherine's statement was quickly becoming inevitable. The silence had been broken, and as the monarchy scrambled to contain the damage, the public's response was swift and unforgiving. The media erupted in a frenzy with headlines like "Monarchy moves to mute the princess" and "Catherine's silence by her own palace" splashed across newspapers. Social media buzzed with outrage, and within minutes, the hashtag #LetCatherine went viral. Across the globe, people rallied behind Catherine. Celebrities, former royals, activists, everyone who had ever felt oppressed by silence now found their voice in Catherine's words. The palace, stunned by the backlash, scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The truth had been exposed and there was no turning back. And so Catherine stood alone in the eye of the storm, but she was no longer silent. The walls of the monarchy began to crack, and the world watched as a mother, a princess, and a woman of unyielding courage took a stand for the truth. As Catherine's speech echoed through the air, the world held its breath. In less than 12 minutes, she did what no one had thought possible. She changed the monarchy forever. Her words, spoken with a trembling yet steadfast voice, dismantled the carefully constructed facade of the royal family. She wasn't just speaking as the Princess of Wales, she was speaking as a mother who would do anything to protect her child. Catherine's courage had shattered the silence, and with it she had awakened a nation. The monarchy, once untouchable, was now facing a reckoning that would define its future. In the wake of Catherine's declaration, the palace fell into chaos. King Charles, now more isolated than ever, faced the biggest decision of his reign: how to preserve the monarchy in the face of the truth that had been exposed. The future of the monarchy, once a foregone conclusion, now seemed uncertain. The public had demanded answers, and the royal family would have to answer for the silence they had maintained for so long. As the world waited, one thing was clear: the monarchy would never be the same again. The echoes of Catherine's words would reverberate through the halls of Buckingham Palace for generations to come. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and join us next time for more updates as the royal story continues to unfold. In an emotional outburst, Princess Anne confronted her brother, King Charles, accusing him of orchestrating the silence that had caused irreparable harm to the family. She demanded answers: who was responsible for hiding the truth? As Anne's words reverberated through the room, the palace staff watched in stunned silence. What had once been a political issue had become intensely personal. For the first time in decades, the monarchy was being questioned from within. Anne had taken a stand. She refused to remain silent, especially when it came to her nephew's well-being and the truth that had been buried for so long. She urged Catherine in quiet but firm words: do what you must, or they'll never let you say it at all. That quiet urging became the decisive turning point. Catherine, already on the edge of breaking her silence, now felt the support of her family. She was ready to speak, ready to reveal the truth that had been hidden from the world. And so Catherine's handwritten letter, an intimate, raw testament to her struggles, was discovered. Tucked away beneath layers of family photographs in a private drawer, it was never meant for anyone's eyes but her husband, Prince William. It wasn't a cry for help or a desperate plea for sympathy. It was a powerful, final act of defiance. In the letter, Catherine poured out the agony of watching her son, Prince Louis, struggle in silence. She spoke of the unbearable loneliness, of the constant battle behind closed doors, and of the crushing realization that their world would never be the same again. Catherine wrote of sleepless nights beside Louis's bedside, of seeking second opinions in secret, and of hiding the truth from the world. She recalled the gut-wrenching moments when she was expected to smile for the cameras, all while watching her son fade away. The letter didn't just reveal her sorrow, it revealed her unwavering strength as a mother. She didn't blame William, far from it. She admired him for his steadfastness, for being the foundation upon which their family stood. But even William, no matter how strong, had been worn down by the demands of the monarchy. In the most heart-wrenching part of the letter, Catherine wrote, "He's fading away, they also want me to be happy." It was a brutal reflection of the expectations placed upon her. She, a mother in the deepest agony of watching her child suffer, was being told to be happy, to put on the appearance of joy even as her son's future hung in the balance. William read the letter alone, sitting in Sandringham, a place that had once been a sanctuary for him as a child. He remained motionless for hours, his face hollow, his eyes blank. When he finally emerged, there was no anger, no resistance, only a deep, silent understanding. The weight of the truth in Catherine's letter had broken through any defenses he had left. The palace's relentless push for secrecy, its disregard for their suffering, had gone too far. From that moment, William ceased to oppose Catherine's decision to speak. His resistance evaporated, and with it, he gave her the space to do what had long been necessary: to speak out. And so the carefully constructed image of the monarchy began to unravel. The royal family's tight grip on their narrative had been shattered by the simple yet profound words of Catherine's letter. The truth that had been kept hidden for so long was about to be made public. But before Catherine could take the final step, the unlikeliest of actions occurred. Prince Harry, long ostracized from the royal family and shrouded in controversy, picked up the phone. The call he made was one no one expected, but one that would change everything. "I understand what it's like to be kept in the dark," Harry said, offering Catherine a connection forged from shared pain, not royal obligation. In that moment, Harry was not the rebellious prince who had stepped away from the monarchy. He was a brother, a son, someone who had experienced the exact same suffocating silence Catherine was now facing. Their conversation lasted for 37 minutes that would remain private, but which would have profound consequences. There were no aides, no recordings, just two voices bound by their shared understanding of what it meant to live in a silence that had almost destroyed them. Together, they made the decision that would shape the monarchy's future. The silence was over. In that moment, Catherine had found a rare ally, someone who understood the cost of staying quiet. Harry, no longer just a distant royal figure, became a partner in her fight for the truth. The stage was set for Catherine's ultimate revelation. The monarchy's tightly controlled image would no longer be enough to silence her. The truth was coming, and nothing could stop it. "You have to tell them," Harry urged, his voice low and urgent, yet filled with understanding. He knew the immense weight Catherine carried. He had felt it himself. The suffocating silence, the fear of exposure, the crushing pressure to maintain an image for the world, even when the truth was tearing them apart. Harry understood that the truth could no longer be contained. It had been buried for too long, hidden behind royal walls and carefully crafted facades. But now, in the quiet of the phone call, he realized that the only way forward was to face the reality that had been concealed for so many years. As Catherine hung up the phone, the world around her seemed to slow down, and she felt a quiet shift deep inside. It wasn't just the release of her thoughts or the end of a long conversation. It was the moment she finally allowed herself to admit what she had known all along. Silence could no longer be her shield. The pressure to remain silent to protect the royal family's image had been immense. For years, the expectation was clear: never let the world see the cracks, the struggles, or the pain. But Harry's words echoed in her mind. "You have to tell them." She was no longer alone in this fight. She had a partner now, someone who understood what it was like to be trapped in silence, to be forced to hide the truth, to be shackled by the very institution that claimed to protect them. But while Catherine felt the weight of that release, the aftermath of her decision began to stir trouble at home. Meghan, who had already been at odds with the royal family, found herself embroiled in an unexpected conflict with Harry. Sources close to the couple reported a heated argument between them, one where Meghan reminded Harry of the very reasons they had left the royal fold in the first place. She questioned why he was suddenly willing to re-engage with the very family they had sought to distance themselves from. The tension between them was palpable. Meghan's concerns were valid, but Harry's resolve was firm. For him, this wasn't about reconciling or smoothing over old wounds. It was about something far more significant. It was about breaking the cycle of silence, of covering up, of pretending that everything was fine when they all knew it was. In the story of Prince Louis, Harry saw his own struggles reflected. He understood the consequences of silence all too well. He knew how it could destroy relationships, drain lives, and crush spirits. He had lived it. And now, standing on the precipice of this revelation, he knew that Catherine had reached her own breaking point. Her call to action was not just an impulse, it was a long-awaited moment of empowerment. It was the very push Catherine needed, the final nudge to take the step that had been waiting for her all along. Without Harry's words, she might have retreated back into the shadows of the palace, silenced once again by the weight of royal expectations. But now she was ready to speak, ready to expose the truth, ready to do what had been denied to her for so long. As the hours ticked by, a monumental decision was made within the royal walls. King Charles, fully aware of the growing unrest inside his family, prepared to take drastic action. The fractures within the monarchy were widening, and he could no longer ignore the turbulence. He sought to stop Catherine's statement from being made public. It had to be contained before it spread any further. The order was issued late at night, an encrypted directive sent to key members of the royal administration. The palace's machinery was set into motion, its sole aim, to silence Catherine before she could speak her truth. But what King Charles had failed to anticipate was the deepened resolve of his son, William. Now fully aligned with Catherine, William refused to back down. He had read the letter, felt the pain, and understood the gravity of the situation. Catherine's silence for all these years had not just been her burden, it had been his too. They had both suffered, both been forced to protect the family's image, and both endured the quiet erosion of their lives. For William, the truth was no longer something to fear. The monarchy, for all its power and grandeur, could no longer shield them from the reality that had always been there. As William stood firm in his resolve, the palace was plunged into turmoil. Senior aides, once loyal to King Charles, now found themselves questioning their own roles. Some suggested that the king should step forward and make a public statement, something to quell the mounting storm, but Charles hesitated. His authority had already been tested, and the rebellion within his own family was impossible to ignore. The whispers of dissent were growing louder, and the cracks in the monarchy's facade were starting to show. The royal family had always prided itself on maintaining control over their public narrative, but now it seemed that control was slipping through their fingers. Meanwhile, Catherine's statement, once considered an impossibility, was rapidly becoming inevitable. The silence had been shattered, and there was no way to put it back. The media, ever watchful, began to catch wind of the unrest, and within hours the story was everywhere. The frenzy began. Headlines like "Monarchy moves to mute the princess" and "Catherine silenced by her own palace" flooded newspapers, igniting a storm of speculation and outrage. Social media erupted in response, and in mere minutes the hashtag #LetCatherineSpeak became a global phenomenon. People everywhere from all walks of life rallied behind Catherine. Celebrities, former royals, activists, everyone who had ever felt the weight of silence, who had ever been forced to cover up their truth, found themselves in solidarity with her. The public's response was swift and unforgiving. The palace, stunned by the speed and intensity of the backlash, scrambled to respond. But it was already too late. The truth had been laid bare. Catherine's courage had shattered the carefully constructed image the royal family had worked so tirelessly to maintain. The walls had cracked, and once the cracks were there, they couldn't be sealed again. No amount of royal protocol, no amount of silencing tactics could undo the impact of Catherine's decision to speak out. The truth was out there, and there was no turning back. The monarchy, once untouchable, now found itself in an unprecedented crisis. A story that had been carefully guarded for years was now a public reckoning, and the very institution that had prided itself on tradition and control was being forced to confront its own failings. The repercussions of Catherine's words would ripple across the world. The narrative was no longer in the hands of the palace, it was in the hands of the people, and it would never be the same again. The royal family's future was uncertain, and the monarchy now stood at a crossroads. The silence had been broken, the truth had been exposed, and with it the world was watching, waiting to see what would come next. And so Catherine stood alone in the eye of the storm, but this time she was no longer silent. The weight of her decision was heavy, but it was no longer a burden she carried in isolation. The very foundation of the monarchy, the towering institution that had remained unshaken for centuries, began to crack under the intensity of her words. The world watched, breathless, as a mother, a princess, and a woman of unyielding courage took a stand for what she knew to be the truth. In that moment, the delicate balance of royal secrecy shattered, and the world was forced to reckon with the cost of keeping quiet for so long. As Catherine's voice rang out, trembling yet resolute, through the halls of Buckingham Palace, the weight of her declaration rippled through the air, carried on waves of disbelief. In less than 12 minutes, she achieved what seemed impossible. She changed the monarchy forever. Her words, once concealed by layers of royal protocol and tradition, had now cut through the noise and exposed the truth that had long been kept hidden behind closed doors. She was not speaking merely as the Princess of Wales, an emblem of royal decorum and restraint. No, she was speaking as a mother, a woman who would do anything to protect her child, no matter the cost. Catherine's courage in this moment shattered the silence that had oppressed her for so long. Her willingness to speak out, to confront the world with the truth, ignited a spark that would soon ignite a fire. She had not only awakened the nation, but she had also awakened herself. The monarchy, once an unshakable institution, was now facing an irreversible reckoning that would define its future. The truth, once feared and concealed, had been laid bare, and there was no going back. In the wake of Catherine's bold declaration, the palace descended into chaos. King Charles, already more isolated than ever, was confronted with the hardest decision of his reign: how to preserve the monarchy in the face of the truth that had been exposed so publicly. The future of the royal family, once thought to be an unassailable certainty, now seemed uncertain. The walls that had stood for generations, built on secrecy and control, began to crumble under the weight of Catherine's words. The public, once entranced by the royal image, had now demanded answers, and those answers would have to come no matter the cost. As the world watched in anticipation, one undeniable truth became clear: the monarchy would never be the same again. The echoes of Catherine's declaration reverberated through the royal corridors, loud and unyielding. The carefully curated facade of royal perfection had been dismantled, and the royal family now found itself at a crossroads, where its future would be shaped by the very thing they had worked so hard to suppress: the truth. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and join us next time as the royal story continues to unfold, revealing more of the hidden truths and untold stories that have shaped the monarchy's past, present, and future.